filled with distractions, delays, and excuses, there comes a moment when God speaks not to comfort your laziness, but to awaken your purpose. This is the uncomfortable season when he says, force yourself to get things done. It is not a gentle whisper. It is a divine push, a holy urgency that refuses to let you settle where you are. Many believers wait for a feeling, a sign, a supernatural wave of motivation, but heaven does not always move according to your emotional condition. Destiny does not depend on how you feel. It depends on what you choose to do. Feelings are unpredictable, but obedience is stable. Purpose is not birthed in comfort, but in discipline. When God gives an instruction, he expects motion even when your emotions are not cooperating. He expects you to push yourself when every part of your flesh wants to remain still. There are moments when God will not move the mountain. He will command you to climb it. There are moments when he will not calm the storm. He will command you to row through it. There are moments when he will not remove the weight. He will tell you to lift it. Because the strength that develops while forcing yourself becomes the strength required to carry your destiny. God never told Noah to build the ark when it was easy. He gave the instructions in a time when rain did not yet exist, when the command made no sense, when the assignment seemed ridiculous. Noah did not wait for motivation. He forced himself into daily discipline. Can you imagine the exhaustion, the ridicule, the feeling of doing something that had no visible result for decades? Yet he kept building. Not because he felt like it every day, but because obedience requires force. Abraham forced himself to leave his familiar homeland. Joseph forced himself to remain faithful in prison. Moses forced himself to confront Pharaoh. None of them waited for the perfect emotional condition. They acted because divine instruction demands movement. When God says, force yourself, he is breaking the chains of spiritual immaturity. Many believers confuse comfort with confirmation. They think that if something is God's will, it will feel peaceful, easy, smooth, or effortless. But the Bible never teaches that. Most divine assignments begin with discomfort because discomfort pushes you into development. You cannot grow in a place that never stretches you. You cannot enter a new season while clinging to old habits. You cannot receive a bigger blessing while maintaining a smaller discipline. Growth will always require force. Transformation will always require pressure. Elevation will always require effort. God's will is not proven by how easy something feels. It is proven by how deeply it transforms you. There are assignments right now that God has already spoken to you. There are instructions you heard months or even years ago. There are dreams buried inside you that require action, not just emotion. Some of you have been circling the same mountain because you refuse to force yourself into motion. You pray for clarity, but God already gave direction. You ask for confirmation, but he already gave instruction. You wait for strength, but strength comes after obedience, not before. You want God to open doors, but he is waiting for you to turn the handle. Heaven is ready, but you are hesitant. Destiny is waiting, but you are delaying. And the longer you wait, the more stagnant your spirit becomes. God cannot bless excuses. He blesses action. He blesses effort. He blesses obedience. Even when it feels heavy, even when it feels uncomfortable, even when it feels unnatural, you must force yourself into the rhythm of discipline if you desire to see the manifestation of what God promised you. The enemy does not fear a believer who prays only when they feel spiritual. He fears a believer who forces themselves to pray even in dry seasons. He does not fear a believer who seeks God only when everything is going well. He fears the one who forces themselves into worship while walking through the fire. He does not fear a believer who reads scripture once a week. He fears the one who forces their spirit into the word daily until revelation becomes transformation. He does not fear a believer who works on their calling only when inspired. He fears the one who forces themselves to work consistently until excellence becomes their identity. The enemy knows he cannot stop a believer who refuses to be ruled by feelings. Feelings may visit, but discipline decides. Emotion may appear, but conviction leads. Weakness may whisper, but purpose shouts louder. When God tells you to force yourself, he is preparing you for elevation. Promotion in the kingdom is not based on talent. It is based on stewardship. Many talented people remain ordinary because they refuse to practice discipline. Many gifted people remain unseen because they lack consistency. Many anointed people remain unproductive because they do not force themselves to act. You cannot pray your way into excellence. You work your way into excellence. Prayer gives direction, but discipline brings manifestation. God will give the vision, but He will not build the routine for you. That is your responsibility. That is your force. That is your test. The truth many do not want to admit is this: sometimes God allows discomfort to train your discipline. He lets the pressure rise so you will rise with it. He lets the challenge appear so you can develop spiritual muscle. He lets the delay linger so you can practice persistence. If everything were easy, nothing would grow in you. So forcing yourself is not punishment, it is preparation. It is the molding of a vessel God can trust. It is the shaping of a character that can carry blessing without collapsing under the weight. It is the refining of a mindset that can steward opportunity instead of wasting it. Every time you force yourself, you are breaking the version of you that lives by excuses. When God says force yourself, He is inviting you into a higher version of yourself. He is calling you to rise beyond moods, emotions, and excuses. He is teaching you to rule your flesh rather than be ruled by it. He is pulling you out of spiritual childhood into spiritual adulthood. Children act only when they feel like it. Adults move because responsibility demands it. Children wait for someone to push them. Adults push themselves. This is why the kingdom suffers when believers stay spiritually young. Growth is not measured by how much you know, but by how consistently you apply what you know. Knowledge without discipline creates spiritual obesity. Discipline turns revelation into transformation. Force turns calling into reality. So when God says, force yourself to get things done, He is not shaming you. He is shaping you. He is not exhausting you. He is empowering you. He is not pushing you to break. He is pushing you to build. He is not demanding perfection. He is demanding progress. And progress is always the result of force. Your destiny is too important to be controlled by feelings. Your assignment is too valuable to be delayed by excuses. Your calling is too significant to be wasted by inconsistency. It is time to wake up your spirit. It is time to command your flesh. It is time to push past the noise in your mind. Purpose is calling, and it will not wait forever. This is the hour when you must look at the areas of your life that have been stagnant for far too long and admit that divine intervention is waiting on human participation. Heaven is not obligated to complete what you refuse to start. Many believers cry for breakthroughs while ignoring the behaviors that block those breakthroughs. They ask for a new season while protecting old patterns. They pray for harvest while refusing to plant. They desire results without routine. But God is not a magician. He is a master who partners with your discipline to produce destiny. You cannot rebuke what you refuse to replace. You cannot pray away the consequences of inconsistency. You cannot demand miracles when you ignore the responsibilities that create the environment for miracles. There is a version of you that God already sees, a version stronger, wiser, more focused, more disciplined, more fruitful. But that version does not emerge through wishing. It emerges through forcing your flesh into alignment. You will never enter your prophetic identity while maintaining your comfortable habits. Growth demands pressure. Obedience demands effort. Progress demands force. Just as a seed must break before it grows, you must push yourself beyond what feels natural. Many of you are one decision away from momentum, one act of obedience away from clarity, one disciplined week away from breakthrough. But you keep waiting for a feeling that may never come. Feelings are unstable. Emotions shift. Moods fluctuate. But the kingdom moves by principle, not emotion. The enemy knows that as long as he can control your feelings, he can delay your future. But the moment you decide to act, even when you feel nothing, you break his influence. This is why God often commands movement before motivation. The Israelites were told to march around Jericho before the walls fell. They were not motivated. They were instructed. Their obedience produced the miracle. David ran toward Goliath before he saw the victory. Daniel prayed even when the law opposed him. Joseph remained faithful even when forgotten. None of them waited for the right feeling. They forced themselves into obedience, and heaven honored them. Your future requires the same courage. You must force yourself to wake up earlier, to study the word longer, to pray with intensity, to sharpen your gifts, to manage your time, to resist distractions, to silence your flesh. You must force yourself to forgive those who hurt you, to let go of what is toxic, to release what is draining you, to walk away from relationships that sabotage your calling. You must force yourself to focus when your mind wanders, to work when you feel tired, to push when everything in you wants to quit. Destiny is reserved for those who push. Every champion in Scripture had a moment where force produced destiny. Jacob wrestled until daybreak, refusing to let go. Elijah prayed until the cloud appeared. Paul pressed until the gospel reached nations. Jesus endured the cross because purpose demanded force. If the Son of God himself had to push through agony to fulfill his assignment, why do you believe your destiny will require less? Forcing yourself does not mean you become harsh. It means you become intentional. It means you govern your life with purpose rather than convenience. It means you stop letting weakness make your decisions. You stop letting fear dictate your choices. You stop letting tiredness set your standards. You stop letting excuses write your story. Force is the language of destiny. There are dreams inside you that will die if you wait for motivation. There are businesses that will never be built if you wait for inspiration. There are books that will never be written, ministries that will never be launched, relationships that will never be healed, opportunities that will never be seized unless you force yourself into action. Purpose does not grow in comfort. Purpose grows in pressure. Many believers misunderstand grace. Grace empowers you to act. It does not excuse you from action. Grace strengthens your effort. It does not replace your responsibility. Grace enlarges your capacity. It does not eliminate your discipline. God will not do for you what he designed you to do for yourself. He provides the strength, but you must provide the motion. He gives the vision, but you must build the strategy. He opens the door, but you must walk through it. When you force yourself, you activate spiritual laws that were waiting for your participation. You step into a flow of divine assistance. You begin to experience progress that once seemed impossible, because God helps those who move, not those who wait for perfect conditions. Faith without works is dead, not because faith disappears, but because works resurrect what faith began. So today, if God is telling you to force yourself, it is because he knows what is inside you. He knows the greatness hidden beneath your hesitation. He knows the strength buried underneath your excuses. He knows the potential trapped underneath your procrastination. He knows the future waiting on the other side of your discipline. And he refuses to let you settle for less than what he placed in you. Move even when it hurts. Push even when it feels heavy. Act even when your flesh screams no. Discipline your mind, discipline your spirit, discipline your habits, discipline your time, because destiny belongs to the disciplined. Force yourself because greatness is on the other side of your effort. Force yourself because God already equipped you. Force yourself because your assignment cannot wait forever. You must understand that forcing yourself is not an act of self-punishment, but an act of alignment with destiny. There are seasons when God allows you to feel the weight of responsibility so that you grow into the person capable of carrying what he has prepared for you. Some blessings are too heavy for an undisciplined mind. Some opportunities are too large for an inconsistent lifestyle. Some breakthroughs are too valuable to place in the hands of someone who moves only when they feel like moving. Responsibility matures you. Discipline stabilizes you. Force propels you. There are many who pray for increase but ignore the discipline required to sustain increase. God is not only the God who blesses, he is the God who prepares. And preparation requires force. Think about how many times you delayed progress because you said you were tired or overwhelmed or uninspired or waiting for a better time. But the truth is there is no better time. The only time you have is the time you discipline. The only opportunities you keep are the ones you act on. Every delay has a cost. Every excuse steals something. Every refusal to act pushes destiny further. The enemy does not need to destroy you, he only needs to delay you. And nothing delays a believer more effectively than waiting for the perfect feeling. Feelings lie. Excuse lie. Fear lies. But purpose never lies. It stands firm. waiting for the day you decide to force yourself into obedience. When you begin to force yourself, you take back authority over your life. You take back your power to decide. You take back control over your choices. You take back your ability to move, regardless of how you feel. Feelings are terrible leaders. They shift like the wind, and if you let them guide your life, your future will be unstable. But discipline is a firm foundation. Discipline is not emotional, it is intentional. It does not ask, do I feel like it? It asks, is this necessary for my destiny? One of the greatest lies the enemy whispers is that you need to feel ready before you begin. But readiness comes through action, not before it. You become strong by doing the things you once avoided. You become focused by eliminating what once distracted you. You become excellent by repeating what once felt difficult. The transformation you desire is hidden within the effort you resist. Every time you force yourself, you break a layer of weakness off your life. Every time you push, you grow. Every time you act, heaven responds. So force yourself now. Force yourself before the habit forms against you. Force yourself before the window closes. Force yourself before regret becomes heavier than discipline. Force yourself because the world needs what is inside you. Force yourself because heaven is stirring you. Force yourself because you were not born to live an average life. Force yourself because your purpose depends on your willingness to move when everything in you wants to stay still. Destiny responds to action, and action begins the moment you choose disciplined movement today. When God speaks about purpose, He does not speak to your emotions, He speaks to your spirit. Your feelings were never designed to lead you because they react to circumstances, but your spirit responds to instruction. When God tells you that your feelings are not your leaders, He is revealing that purpose demands intentional action, not emotional agreement. There will be moments in your journey where your emotions are completely opposite to what God is commanding you to do. You may feel unprepared, unworthy, exhausted, overwhelmed, or uncertain, but divine purpose requires you to move anyway. God does not wait for your feelings to catch up before He gives direction. Your assignment is too important to be governed by how you feel in a temporary moment. Destiny is not built on emotion, it is built on obedience. Emotion may be the atmosphere, but obedience is the engine. Purpose does not grow when everything feels right. It grows when you choose to act, even when everything feels wrong. Your feelings might scream at you to stop, to delay, to avoid, to retreat. But your spirit knows when God is calling you to rise above your emotional state and step into something greater. Feelings are deceptive because they are shaped by your environment, your mood, your thoughts, your fears, and your history. But God is not limited by your environment, your mood, your thoughts, your fears, or your history. He speaks from eternity while your emotions speak from the moment. When you allow feelings to lead you, you are living from reaction instead of revelation. You begin to make decisions based on what hurts instead of what heals, based on what happened instead of what is possible, based on what you fear instead of what God promised. Feelings are terrible leaders because they change quickly. What you are passionate about today, you may ignore tomorrow. What you fear today, you may conquer next week. What overwhelms you now may not bother you next month. But purpose does not shift like that. Purpose is steady. Purpose is firm. Purpose is consistent. Purpose remains when emotion fades. That is why you cannot let emotion decide your destiny. If emotions determine your movement, then inconsistency will become your pattern. You will start things but never finish them. You will make promises but never fulfill them. You will dream loudly but execute quietly. You will desire greatness but remain stagnant because feelings do not produce discipline. There is a version of you that God designed before you were born, and that version is not emotional, it is intentional. That version is disciplined, focused, committed, resilient, and obedient. But to become that version, you must learn the skill of moving even when your emotions resist movement. Many believers rely on inspiration to start, but inspiration is temporary. Discipline is permanent. You cannot wait until you feel motivated to pray, to study, to work, to grow, to build, to forgive, or to pursue your calling. Motivation is seasonal. Conviction is eternal. Emotion is weak. Purpose is strong. And in the kingdom of God, strength is measured not by how you feel, but by how you act despite how you feel. This is why Jesus told his disciples to watch and pray, even when they felt tired. He was showing them that obedience is bigger than emotion. Your spirit must become stronger than your feelings, because feelings will always try to pull you backward while purpose pushes you forward. When divine purpose demands intentional action beyond emotion, you must recognize that God is training your spiritual muscles. Every time you choose obedience over emotion, your spirit becomes stronger. Every time you choose action over hesitation, your purpose becomes clearer. Every time you choose to move forward when your feelings try to hold you back, heaven celebrates your maturity. Because maturity is not how much you know, it is how consistently you apply what you know. A believer who lives by emotion is spiritually unstable. They cannot be trusted with greater responsibility because they cannot govern themselves. But a believer who lives by principle, discipline, and obedience is someone God can elevate. God cannot promote emotional inconsistency. He promotes disciplined stability. Feelings do not qualify you. Obedience does. There are moments when God tells you to move, and everything inside you feels unqualified. You feel like you do not have the skill, the energy, the strength, or the background. But God is not looking at your feelings. He is looking at your willingness to act. Many people pray for purpose to be revealed, but they resist the responsibility that comes with it. Purpose is not a feeling, it is an assignment. Purpose is not comfort, it is commitment. God gives you direction, but He does not force you to follow. He provides the path, but He does not drag you along it. He reveals the future, but you must build the discipline to walk toward it. Discipline begins when emotion ends. The moment you no longer feel like doing something is the moment discipline must take over. This is why the enemy attacks your emotions so aggressively. He knows that if he can control your emotions, he can delay your destiny. If he can manipulate how you feel, he can distract you from what matters. If he can overwhelm your feelings, he can weaken your consistency. But once you understand that feelings are not your leaders, the enemy loses one of his strongest tools. You begin to act from conviction instead of emotion. You begin to move with purpose instead of hesitation. You begin to push forward even when fear whispers. God gives instructions that challenge your feelings because faith must rise above feeling. Faith is not emotional, it is positional. Faith stands firm even when emotion trembles. Faith obeys even when doubt shouts. Faith acts even when fear threatens. Faith moves even when your feelings try to freeze you. Every miracle in Scripture required someone to obey beyond emotion. Noah built the ark while facing mockery. Abraham left his home while facing uncertainty. Moses confronted Pharaoh while trembling inside. Esther risked death while battling fear. David faced Goliath while feeling young and small. Paul preached while being attacked and imprisoned. None of them felt ready. None of them felt strong. None of them felt comfortable. But they acted because divine purpose is not validated by emotion, it is validated by obedience. Purpose does not wait for your emotional agreement. God will tell you to forgive when your feelings want revenge. He will tell you to give when your feelings want to hold back. He will tell you to confront what you fear when your feelings want you to run. He will tell you to commit when your feelings want to quit. He will tell you to discipline your habits when your feelings want comfort. He will tell you to grow when your feelings want rest. This is how God transforms you. He gives you instructions that pull you out of emotional patterns that no longer serve your purpose. Feelings can keep you trapped in cycles, but obedience breaks cycles. Feelings can hold you hostage to your past, but obedience guides you into your future. Feelings can keep you limited, but obedience unlocks your potential. If you continue living from emotion, you will repeat the same behaviors year after year, waiting for a change that will never come. But when you begin living from purpose, you activate change from the inside out. One of the biggest lies people believe is that they need to feel healed before they act healed. Feel confident before they act confidently. Feel strong before they act strongly. Feel worthy before they act worthy. But God works in reverse. He tells you to act before you feel, because action creates the environment for transformation. You do not wait to feel disciplined, you act disciplined. You do not wait to feel spiritual. You seek God consistently. You do not wait to feel bold. You speak with courage. You do not wait to feel prepared. You begin building. Emotion does not create faith. Faith reshapes emotion. When you act according to purpose, your feelings eventually submit. Your flesh may resist at first, but repeated obedience trains your body, mind, and spirit to align with your assignment. Discipline reshapes desire. Consistency reshapes emotion. Obedience reshapes identity. You become the person you repeatedly choose to be, not the person you temporarily feel like being. There are many things you have avoided simply because you did not feel ready. But readiness is not emotional, it is spiritual. God did not design you to follow your heart. He designed you to guard your heart. When you follow your feelings, you end up drifting. When you follow your purpose, you end up growing. Feelings may encourage you one day and discourage you the next. Purpose is stable even when emotion shakes. Purpose keeps you grounded. Purpose guides your decisions. Purpose anchors your identity. Purpose strengthens your discipline. You must reach a place where you stop asking, "Do I feel like doing this?" and start asking, "Is this required for my purpose?" That question will shift your life. It will shift your habits, your energy, your relationships, your focus, your time, your priorities. Emotion makes decisions quickly and regrets them slowly. Purpose makes decisions slowly and builds them consistently. Emotion wants comfort, purpose wants growth. Emotion wants ease, purpose wants elevation. Emotion wants relief, purpose wants responsibility. You cannot have both comfort and calling. You must choose. Calling requires you to move beyond how you feel. To walk in divine purpose, you must develop spiritual maturity. Maturity means choosing what is right, even when feelings choose what is convenient. Maturity means fighting through emotional storms without losing direction. Maturity means showing up even when you feel empty. Maturity means being consistent, even when you feel uninspired. Maturity means pushing forward even when your strength feels low. Maturity means taking responsibility for what God assigned you, not blaming your emotions for what you avoided. If you allow feelings to govern your life, you will remain spiritually stagnant. But if you allow purpose to govern your decisions, you will grow beyond anything you imagined. The truth many believers avoid is that feelings often expose areas that need growth. When you feel lazy, God is calling you to discipline. When you feel afraid, God is calling you to courage. When you feel insecure, God is calling you to identity. When you feel offended, God is calling you to forgiveness. When you feel unmotivated, God is calling you to consistency. When you feel overwhelmed, God is calling you to structure. When you feel discouraged, God is calling you to faith. Emotions are not enemies, they are indicators. They show you where your flesh is still louder than your spirit. They show you where spiritual growth is needed, but they are not meant to lead you, they are meant to be led. Your spirit leads, your purpose leads, your obedience leads, your calling leads, and your emotions must follow. The more you mature, the more you understand that purpose is not emotional, it is intentional. It is the daily decision to honor what God placed inside of you. It is the refusal to let a temporary feeling sabotage an eternal assignment. It is the courage to do what God asked, even when your flesh wants comfort. It is the choice to move forward, even when fear tries to paralyze you. It is the discipline to prioritize what matters, even when distractions tempt you. It is the strength to keep building, even when progress is slow. It is the humility to obey God even when you do not understand everything. Emotion seeks to escape pressure. Purpose seeks to grow from it. Emotion wants shortcuts. Purpose wants transformation. Emotion wants permission. Purpose wants responsibility. Emotion reacts. Purpose responds. Emotion fluctuates. Purpose remains. There will be days when you feel nothing, yet purpose demands everything. Days when you feel tired, yet responsibility calls your name. Days when you feel doubtful, yet God still expects action. Days when you feel empty, yet you must keep sowing. Days when you feel discouraged, yet you must continue. These are the days when maturity separates the emotional from the purposeful. These are the days when heaven watches to see whether you move by feeling or by assignment. These are the days that build the future God promised you. Because the life God designed for you is not built on moments of emotion, it is built on years of obedience. And years of obedience are built on daily decisions to act even when you feel nothing. That is how purpose grows. That is how calling matures. That is how destiny unfolds. Your feelings are not your leaders because you were created for something greater than emotion. You were created for purpose. You were created for impact. You were created for responsibility. You were created for discipline. You were created for transformation. And every step you take beyond how you feel brings you closer to the person God designed you to be. There comes a moment in every believer's life when God stops whispering and starts shaking. A moment where he confronts you, not because he is angry, but because he refuses to let you live small, think small, and die small. Keynote number 3 is that kind of confrontation, a divine wake-up call that forces your spirit to stand at attention and recognize the weight of what heaven has put inside you. God never created you to wander through life, surviving off emotional scraps, spiritual fragments, or leftover prophecy from someone else's cup. He designed you to rise with authority, clarity, and dominion, but somewhere along the line, we exchange divine identity for human approval. And anytime you trade identity for approval, you lose destiny. This keynote is about that destiny, about what God deposited in you before you were born. It's about the part of you the enemy fears the most. It's about the crown you were supposed to wear, but left on the ground because life convinced you to shrink. But heaven never planned for you to shrink. Heaven planned for you to shine. God has a habit of confronting people who forgot their assignment, not because he wants to shame them, but because he wants to restore them. When Elijah hid in the cave, God didn't send an angel to comfort him. He sent a voice that said, "What are you doing here?" That was not a question, it was a rebuke. It was God reminding him, "You don't belong in caves, you belong in the purpose I designed." When Adam tried to hide, God asked, "Where are you?" Again, not because he didn't know Adam's location, but because Adam forgot his location. When Jonah ran, God didn't let the boat sink. He made the storm chase Jonah until Jonah faced himself. And that is exactly what God is doing in this keynote. He is chasing you with truth until you stop hiding from the version of you he created. Every assignment from God requires courage, confrontation, and clarity. Courage to step out, confrontation to face what's blocking you, and clarity to recognize what is from God and what is not. The tragedy of many believers is not that they lack faith, it is that they lack clarity. They believe in God but don't understand themselves. They have power but don't know how to use it. They have calling but don't know how to walk in it. They have a destiny but don't know how to protect it. God does not reveal your calling to impress you. He reveals it to expose your responsibility. Heaven never intended for you to become a passive spectator in your own story. You were created to be a participant in kingdom purpose. But purpose doesn't manifest in a comfortable environment. Destiny grows in the soil of pressure. Diamonds form under intensity. Warriors are born in battles. Champions rise in storms. So if your life feels like a battlefield, it is not a sign of abandonment, it is a sign of assignment. There are seasons when God will let you feel uncomfortable because he is stretching you beyond the level you settle for. Some people think discomfort is a sign that something is wrong. But for God, discomfort is often a sign that something is beginning. Every major shift in Scripture started with pressure. Joseph was thrown into a pit before becoming a prince. Moses was exiled in the wilderness before becoming a leader. David faced lions and giants before sitting on the throne. Pressure precedes promotion because heaven refuses to crown anyone who has not survived the process. This keynote carries one central truth. God will disrupt your life when you are living beneath your assignment. He will disrupt relationships that distract you. He will disrupt environments that drain you. He will disrupt habits that limit you. He will disrupt thinking that confines you. He will even disrupt your emotions until you stop attaching your peace to places he never endorsed. One of the most dangerous things a believer can do is stay connected to something God is trying to disconnect. When God begins to separate you, it is a sign that elevation is near. But separation hurts because we think attachment equals belonging. Yet God often removes what is familiar so he can release what is divine. Abraham had to leave his father's house. Ruth had to leave Moab. Peter had to leave the boat. Every departure is the doorway to destiny. But many people never walk through the doorway because they are emotionally loyal to environments that are spiritually suffocating. God cannot promote you while you are tied to what keeps you small. You cannot step into your calling while holding hands with who God has already dismissed. You cannot unlock purpose while entertaining conversations that weaken your spirit. Every destiny requires pruning. Every assignment requires separation. Every elevation requires a shift. There is a powerful spiritual law. God cannot take you where your character cannot sustain you. So he builds your character before he releases your platform. That is why some doors stay closed, not because they are not yours, but because you are not ready to carry them. God protects you from premature exposure. A blessing delivered before preparation becomes a curse disguised as opportunity. But a blessing released at the right time becomes a destiny-shaping transformation. This keynote presses deeper. God is calling you to confront the areas you've ignored, the fears you've hidden, the wounds you've decorated, the habits you've justified, the limits you've normalized. God will not heal what you pretend isn't broken. He will not fix what you keep excusing. He will not transform what you refuse to confront. Breakthrough requires honesty. Destiny requires surrender. Transformation requires exposure. There is a version of you that heaven is waiting to reveal, but it only emerges when you stop negotiating with your weaknesses. Too many people want resurrection without crucifixion. They want elevation without self-discipline. They want destiny without sacrifice. But the kingdom doesn't function on convenience. It functions on commitment. God doesn't ask for what is easy. He asks for what is necessary. There comes a time when God will demand the old version of you to die so the new version can live. That death is not physical, it is internal. The death of insecurity, the death of fear, the death of guilt, the death of shame, the death of people-pleasing, the death of small thinking, the death of excuses. Until that version dies, purpose cannot live. Until that version ends, destiny cannot begin. God is calling you to rise from the grave of who you used to be. Not the grave someone buried you in, but the grave you stayed in. The stone is already rolled away. The chains are already broken. The prison door is already open. The only thing left is for you to walk out. This is your wake-up moment. Your divine interruption, your spiritual transformation. Heaven is confronting you because your assignment is too important to be wasted. The world needs what God placed inside you. Your family needs it. Your generation needs it. Your future needs it. Hell fears it, and heaven expects it. So the question is no longer, are you called? The question is, will you rise? God is pulling you out of who you were and pushing you into who you must become. And when God pushes, nothing can stop the transformation. Not your past, not your failures, not your fear, not your mistakes, not your environment. What God calls, he equips. What he equips, he protects. What he protects, he positions. And what he positions, he reveals. But here is the shocking truth. Your greatest enemy is not the devil. It is the version of you that refuses to change. The devil cannot stop your destiny, but your comfort can. Darkness cannot defeat you, but your excuses can. Hell cannot block you, but your hesitation can. The only thing strong enough to limit your assignment is the version of you that refuses to confront your internal resistance. If you refuse to rise, everything connected to you will remain stuck. But if you rise, everything connected to you will rise with you. Your obedience is not just about you. It is about the generation coming after you. Your transformation is not about your comfort. It is about your calling. God is not demanding change to burden you. He is demanding change to crown you. So here is the final shocking truth. If you do not become who God created you to be, the world will never experience what heaven hid inside you. And that would be the greatest tragedy of all.